Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the Literary License Podcast 2-for-1 episodes, where we look at 2 films and discuss the themes of the month, with your special co-host, Vicky Ray, John Wilson, and Keith Shago, coming at you from the UK and USA.
Sit down.
Hello, welcome to Literary License Podcast, and today we're discussing Hereditary from 2018 and Midsommar from 2019. And before we get started, let's find out who's with us. Today we have special guest co-host C. Derek Miller, author of the Taste of Home series. Hello, Chad.
Hey, how's it going, guys? It's been a while.
Hey, Chad.
Yes,
hey,
Chad. It's been ages. And we also have our new Dark Shadows co-host, who's actually joining us for our 2-for-1, which is Jesse. Hello, Jesse.
Hello.
Hey, Jesse.
Hey, Jesse.
Hi.
Jesse.
How's it going?
It's going.
It's going. And, of course, we have our normal co-host, John Wilson. Hello, John.
Hi. I don't know if I would be called normal, but sure. I think I'm abnormal, but...
Yeah, he has the curl in the middle of his forehead.
I know. I'm fascinated by it. I'm kind of transfixed. I keep looking at it.
It's my way. It's like how I get people to look at me. They look straight into my curl, and they're like transfixed. Now do everything I tell
For when he is good, he's very, very good. But when he's bad, he's even better. And we have Vicky Ray. Hello, Vicky.
Hi, guys.
And, of course, myself, Keith
Hey.
Shago. So what we like to do before we get started, let's do our roses and thorns of the week. And our roses and thorns for our new listeners out there is roses is what you found good since last time we spoke and what you found bad last time we spoke. And let's start with Vicky. Vicky loves doing her roses and thorns first.
Let's see. Well, I keep messing up my travel plans every time we think we're going somewhere. My biggest thorn, though, is fucking termites. $1,300 out the door this week because of termites. And we didn't even know we had them. I thought all these gnats were flying around like fruit flies. I go, these ain't fucking gnats. And then I start inspecting upon it closer, and I was like, God damn, you know. So,
you probably thought it had something to do with your showering during the lockdown.
It could have been. Fuck off. And you are definitely not my rose, that's for sure. No, as far as a rose, I don't know if I have any. I'm just sick of all this shit. My life back.
So she has her thorn garden.
Well, no, actually, I do have one. I watched that Ricky Gervais. I binged watched the whole season of Afterlife. Could not stop watching it. Fantastic series. I'm hoping they have a season 3.
They are. Ricky Gervais was on Twitter today saying because of the popularity of Afterlife, the 3rd season he's writing now. So,
oh my God, it was
the lockdown's
so
the perfect
relevant.
time to do it.
And it's just one of those series you just couldn't stop. I couldn't stop watching it because it's like, wow, you know, it's like, God, I feel like that sometimes, like, fuck it all, man, you know?
Yeah.
But you keep on going because people rely on you no matter what happens in your life.
Well, I mean, one of my best scenes of that is when they're in the old folks' home talking to the old lady who hit 100 years old.
Oh, my God, yes, oh, my God.
And in this country, when you hit 100, you get a you get a letter from the Queen saying that
Yeah.
you're old.
Oh my God, that was hysterical.
And she's just sitting there, and she's like really sweet looking, like the sweetest looking old lady ever. And he goes, "What? How do you like getting Queen?" She goes, "It's fine." He goes, "Well," he goes, "You're 100 years old." She goes, "Yeah." He goes, "But you must have made friends here." She goes, "They're all fucking cunts here. One dies, and they just replace that person with another cunt."
I like it.
Oh my God.
Seriously, I've never heard the word twat and cunt that much in one series. As I found my show.
So, I guess we go to Chad. So, Chad, what is your rose and thorn?
Oh gosh, the thorn. I think my thorn, since it has been a long time since we've spoken, guys. It's been almost a year, really. So there's a lot that's happened in a blasted year. My thorn is getting old. I find out that I've been placed on blood pressure medication now. I'm on anxiety medication. They're swearing that I have some kind of buildup in the vessels of my brain. So, I could kill over at any second. We hope not during the next hour or so.
Please no. Yeah.
Well, we have it on video, so we want to get more viewers.
And I don't have your address in case I have to do 911. You're free.
Yeah,
coming to a Facebook post towards you very soon.
I have had to completely cut out alcohol. I have had to completely cut out caffeine. I think tomorrow I'll run out of vape juice, so that will be the last day I'm vaping. I
draw the line at caffeine.
This is it. 46 years old, and this is it. So yeah, my thorn is getting old. My rose would have to be Battlestar Galactica. I don't know how I went 15 years without watching the series.
I love Battlestar Galactica.
Is this the 2000 series?
Yeah, the 2000 series.
I like the old one too.
I saw the old one as a kid, but I didn't know what was going on. I just knew there were guys flying in space. It was a Star Wars world back then. And if things were flying in space, I loved it. But the sci-fi has a bad habit of just putting out a lot of crap. So
it does. I agree.
I have a tendency to avoid it, and I avoided this show for 15 years. And that and Firefly, I binged them both back to back, and I can't believe that I had avoided them this long. So yeah, my rose right now is definitely Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, I guess I've seen the original Battlestar. Actually, no, I started watching. I saw the new one, but there's some offshoots of it that I haven't seen. I've seen the original series, and there's a couple offshoots, wasn't there? And I haven't gotten to the offshoots.
Yeah, I think like Caprica was one of them, and
I
haven't got that far either.
So, but I did like the 20,000. I liked it better than the original. Seeing Lorne Green off a horse is really hard to take. So.
Yeah, this is true. I liked it though. I still like it.
Well, I think it had that. I think it had that kid. I just remember there was a kid in it with a bowl cut. That American acting child bowl cut that they used to give kids in the 70s and 80s. So Jesse, what is your rose and thorn?
Let's see. My thorn is probably COVID. I'm sick to death of hearing nothing but COVID on Facebook, all social media platforms. You can't do anything. Everything's shut down. None of the movie releases are coming out.
No.
Concerts are shut down. I mean, everything's shut down. Summer is shut down. And there's going to be more rounds of it in the fall. So that's exciting.
It looks like it's going to snow up your way too.
Yeah, that's another one. Yeah, it's actually a historic moment. I got a notification on my phone. It's supposed to be historical snow in May in New York, as well as, isn't it up there as well in England or something?
No, we got sunny weather. It's summer here.
Yeah, everybody keeps got his white beater on.
Maybe Scotland. Scotland always gets shit weather, but they deserve it because they have a speech impediment.
Days of heat. We get like 70 degrees one day and then 40 the next, and you're like, what the hell? It's like these little teases of like nice warm weather, and then it just goes right away.
I don't miss New York sometimes.
And what's your rose, Jesse?
Let's see. My rose.
There has to be something you like.
Is my rose. Well, I'm productive in a lot of my projects and whatnot. a lot of character design, and I suppose being able to be a co-host on the show. There we go.
Very
That's
cool. There you go. Well,
Yeah.
we're glad to have you. We're excited to.
I'm a rose. Everybody's.
Oh yeah.
Give him a year, and then he's like, "Screw this show. My biggest thorn is."
I know.
Keep fucking Shago.
Give it like 3 or 4 episodes. You don't be telling Keith fuck off like the rest of us.
Oh yeah.
And John, what's your rose and thorn?
Thorn, I'm gonna have to agree with Chad with age. I mean, I threw my back out last Tuesday and I'm still suffering for it, and I don't even know how. This is the worst part about it. I don't even know how I threw it out.
It's not funny, but it is.
I'm sure most of us can understand what that feels like. Where it takes your breath away and you're like trying to stand and you're like it's the worst feeling ever. I swear to God.
Yes.
Sucks to get old. I'm just saying. As far as my rose, I have a couple roses. So one is Animal Crossing. I actually started playing that game. My friend got me hooked on it. It's like a fun little Nintendo game. It's kind of like real life. Basically, you have a mortgage. You have things you have to collect. It's ridiculous, but it's a fun little game.
Like a life game, it sounds like.
It is, pretty much. And then my other rose.
Reality gets too much for you. You play Animal Crossing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally. You could just spend hours collecting things and, chopping wood and shit like that. And then my other rose is Westworld. I just finished Westworld season 3.
I haven't finished season 3 yet. I kind of got hung up on 3 and I got lost on episode. I kind of had to double back a little bit because I kind of got lost and had to remember where I left off on season 2 and how all this is transpiring. So
I binge watched it. So I watched basically like 4 and then 4. So I did 4.
There's 8, right? Correct.
Yeah, there's 8. Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's only 8. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was just I love how they ended it, and I'm not going to give any spoilers to it, but I love
I got to finish it.
If you look at the beginning of it and then the way it ends, it's such a good circular thing of what is happening.
So we're going to have a season 4. You're thinking
there is? Yeah, they have already said they're going to have a season 4, and it's just it's great. I mean, it's also very different from the past season. So what I say is like, when
it's definitely different.
It completely flips it up on its heels.
Definitely different. New characters, new people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I watched the last episode on Tuesday, and I was kind of sad because
I know
it was brilliant. I can't. I mean, it does. I think for me personally, it beats the shit out of Games of Thrones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. It's a lot more.
And I love I love Game of Thrones.
I just hope that when they end it, it actually is. Yeah, the last season was horrible.
They could have done
horrible.
They really did kind of.
Well, the reason being is because the writer and producers were supposed to go for 2 more years, but weren't they supposed to be doing the new Star Wars film? And so they wanted to wrap it up to make themselves free to join Disney.
Yeah, but they really gypped all the followers after 8 seasons,
But even the storylines, some of them ended the way I thought they would, but the majority of the storylines are kind of like, I get that you would rush through them because they cut the travel time of a lot of the scenes. So it's like suddenly you're here now, whereas like the past episodes, it took you days to get to here,
It took 2 seasons to get to someplace.
Yeah, exactly.
And then to get overnight. It's like, okay.
Just hop on a dragon and it'll take you there in a minute. Oh, sure. Should have thought of that,
Huge armies of people going from one end of the country to the other in the moment. Yay.
I know. No shit. It did take long to move all them armies, and it was sort of like Middle Earth kind of shit, too.
And by then too, you killed off a lot of really good characters. That by the end, you're kind of left with like what's left, right? And you're like, you have these characters, and then you do some of them right, and then you do some of them horribly wrong. Like you do
some of them dirty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like Jamie and seriously were the 2 that I was like the most pissed about. I was like it was like, what was the point of that whole them?
Yeah.
Like, what was the point of them?
Deal. It was a deal.
I'm still a holdout on that show. I've still not seen a single episode.
Really? I thought the first season was so slow, and then it really snowballs and starts really getting good, and then you get, winter is coming, and then they fuck you in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, my friend had asked, should I watch it? And I said, okay, I'm a little conflicted because I want to say yes, but then because of the last season, I want to say no because the last season was so bad. So the build up to that
before the last season.
Yeah, but part of you is like the last season. You're expecting all these things. Like, great, we're gonna finally find out about this. We're finally gonna get this. We're gonna, Then you're kind of like each episode. You're like, really? That's it?
I was kind of bummed.
Really? That's it? Really?
How they wiped out all the Lannisters. It's like, God, they were so badass for all these seasons, and they get taken out like that. It's like,
by a wall crumbling in.
I know. Seriously.
I don't know. I don't think I want to get so invested in something with characters, I begin to feel something for and then just get shit on. I've already had that experience back in December with the Rise of Skywalker. So, just, I don't know if I'm ready to do that again right now.
However, we'll put it a plug in for Killing Eve. I have to say, I'm liking that show. It's funny as hell, man.
Yeah.
One of the other shows that they did that too, which is a horrible finale, was Penny Dreadful, and I was so irked.
Oh my God,
I was so irked, and so the new one's out, and my friend's like, "Are you watching?" I'm like, "No, I'm pissed. I'm still pissed about what they did with that series. I'm really pissed." And the way they did it was like 2 episodes before the finale. The producers of the show were like,
"Yep, too bad.
Yeah, we're not coming back. So thanks for your, thanks for being fans. Bye." And you're like, "Wait, what? We're not getting another season?" And then the way it ends, you're like, "Well, this is freaking depressing. Like nothing is like it. Just you're like." You're like, okay, that was it,
Well, my roses and thorns are quite bizarre. My thorn basically is Ryan Murphy. And the reason being is because if he's going to do something like The Feud or Hollywood that's out currently, which is, they're all very good shows. They're the Fosse one or even Pose. If he's going to do something that's going to be based in reality, stop messing around with facts and stop lying about stuff just because you want to be woke. And it kind of bothers me. Like Hollywood, I do urge people to see it. It is a very good series. Yeah. But he's got like Hattie McDaniels about her Oscar, and the story that he gives her is a total lie. And the Rock Hudson story is a total lie. And it's just those kind of. And he did the same thing in The Feud, didn't he? Where Olivia de Havilland's still doing it. So I'm just thinking like it'd be nice if he's kept some of his political views to himself, and if it's part of the story and it's fact-based, fine, use it, but don't just make it up because you think this is the way life should be. Because don't rewrite history.
Salacious. He makes
kind of did a flyby in that title. What was the title again, Keith?
Hollywood.
It's actually great. I watched the first 2 episodes. I have to get through the rest of it.
But Mimrat Hudson, his family's going to be pissed.
Yeah.
So, but it's that kind of thing. It's just kind of like trying to get your woke message across by bastardizing history. That's the problem I have. It's like I think you still could do the message, and I don't think I think you can do it without the preaching and still get your message across. Twilight Zone did it in the 50s and 60s excellently. So that's just saying that you can be a bit more clever, and you are dealing. If you're going to deal with real people, you might have to. Don't paint them sometimes just because they're going to fit the script of your story a certain way. Yeah. So that kind of pissed me off. My rose is actually kind of cruel. But it still makes me laugh. It's been making me laugh all week. But I was on the tube, and we do social distancing here on the tube. And basically, I was sitting on the tube, and about 12 feet away from me on the opposite side was this guy with a face mask on. And I was reading my book, and I kind of glanced up, and I saw his face mask kind of explode, where it kind of like where the wind went kind of in and back out. And I looked over, and he took his mask off, and he was basically full of mucus. And I just started laughing at the poor guy. The guy was, he was embarrassed, but I couldn't stop laughing. And the more embarrassed he became, and the more he's trying to blow his nose in this face mask, and plus he doesn't have another face mask. He's really like freaking out. And the more he did it, the higher I cackled. So yeah, that was my rose of the week. Because it actually made me laugh all week long.
You are a sick man.
Laughing at other people's expense.
He does. He's terrible. What is he?
I say it is.
It's Schadenfreude.
Keith was like,
come up with Germans and come up with a word for it. Schadenfreude, enjoying the misfortune of others. Only that in kindergarten. Only Germans could come up with that. So, well, I think what we're going to cut to now is Story Geek. Well, we want to say thank you to Story Geek podcast who have joined us, and what they will be doing is giving us things to watch while you're in lockdown, so you can download from the comfort of your own home without leaving your home. So take it away, Story Geek.
What movies and TV shows should you be watching the week of May 4th? May the 4th be with you, by the way. I'm Jay Shear, co-host of the Story Geeks podcast, and here are the movies and TV shows you can watch from home. We've got some new movies available for rent this week. Bloodshot, the movie starring Vin Diesel that's based on the comic book character of the same name. This film has been available as an early at-home watch, but now has officially been made available to rent. It has a 44 on Metacritic. I Still Believe also makes the transition from home premiere, or whatever they're calling it, to rental this week. It's the true story of Jeremy Camp, the Christian musician. It has a 41 on Metacritic. New to some of the streaming services, May the 4th, which is also referred to as Star Wars Day, brought 3 new Star Wars-related programs to Disney+. The first episode of the behind-the-scenes making of The Mandalorian, the final episode of Season 7 of The Clone Wars, and The Rise of Skywalker. Those were all released on Monday. I've already watched all 3 and thoroughly enjoyed all of them. The Clone Wars ended its run in spectacular fashion. While I did not enjoy the beginning of Season 7, the last 4 episodes of that series are phenomenal and some of the best in the genre. Sticking with Disney Plus for a minute, if you want to see more on the making of classic and cult Disney movies, watch Prop Culture on Disney Plus. It's a fantastic show about movies like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, The Nightmare Before Christmas, and others. It's all based off a deeper dive into the props used to make those films. It's surprisingly good, and I highly recommend it. Transitioning over to Netflix, one of the best movies of all time is now available to watch over there. Back to the Future. Maybe considered a perfect film, and it's always good for a rewatch. Check it out on Netflix. And finally, over on YouTube or Hulu, you can catch the Parks and Recreation Reunion Special. I highly recommend that if you need a dose of levity in your week. It was a really fun little episode they all put together. As for my personal pick, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and even if you, like me, didn't love a lot of the Clone Wars, it's definitely worth watching the last 4 episodes of that series. They are fantastic. And if you enjoy behind-the-scenes content, Prop Culture on Disney Plus, and the behind-the-scenes content for The Mandalorian are also really, really, really good. All of that is over on Disney Plus. This week on the Story Geeks podcast, we dig deeper into the hero's journey while asking the question, is the hero's journey different from the heroine's journey? You can find the Story Geeks podcast on your preferred podcast provider. Until next week, this has been Jay Shear from the Story Geeks podcast, and I hope you have fun streaming movies and TV shows at home.
Hello, welcome back to Literary License Podcast, and we're discussing Hereditary 2018 film, which is an American psychological horror film written and directed by Ari Aster. It is his first feature film, directorial debut. It stars Toni, Collette, Alex Wolff, Millie Shapiro, and Gabriel Byrne as a family haunted by the mysterious presence after the death of their secretive grandmother. Hereditary, of course, would premiere on January 21st, 2018 in the midnight section of the 2018 Sundance Film Festival and was theatrically released in the United States on June 8th, 2018. It was acclaimed by critics, with Colette's performance receiving particular praise, and was a commercial success, making over $80 million on a $10 million budget to become A24's biggest grossing film worldwide. So before we go into our discussion of Hereditary, please hold, and we're going to play you the trailer from Hereditary.
Come on, Peter. Let's just do it.
It's heartening to see so many strange new faces here today. I know my mom would be very touched and probably a little suspicious. My mother was a very secretive and private woman. It's Grandma. You know you were her favorite, right? Even when you were a little baby, she wouldn't let me feed you because she needed to feed you. She was a very difficult woman, which maybe explains me.
I recognize you from your mother.
What?
Sometimes I swear I can feel them in the room.
Oh my God, what's that?
She isn't gone.
She had private rituals, private friends.
Who's gonna take care of me?
You don't think I'm gonna take care of you?
But when you die...
And she wasn't altogether there. At the end.
I don't like this. Dad, I don't like this.
What's happening? Peter! Don't you ever raise your voice at me! I am your mother! Please stop! Mom, what's happening? Make it stop! Make it stop!
I just don't want to put any more stress on my family.
So, welcome back. We're discussing Hereditary 2018. So, Jesse, what are your thoughts of Hereditary?
Where do I start? Hereditary was a really interesting movie. I think it was good. It's like going on a roller coaster ride.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like emotionally gripping. It's traumatizing in certain parts. It kind of makes you a little sick. I had to take a little bit of a break for like a minute during the one scene where the little girl decapitated, obviously. I think that's the worst part.
Get their head whacked off by the telephone pole. Yeah. My old man got up and walked out for that one too.
I didn't even see that coming. I was at one point like, oh my God, did that just happen? And I was kind of like the kid in the car who just sat there like...
Yeah, well, I was relieved that they didn't show anything, and then you see the boy go to sleep, and then you hear the mom scream, and then you see the head there being eaten by ants. So it's like in a worse condition than it would have been if you had seen it immediately. And at that point, I'm like, no. So that was fun, but I was kind of annoyed because it was the mom's fault that happened, because who takes and allows their younger child to be taken out to a teenage party knowing that that's what's going on? Like, she kind of allowed that situation. I don't think any parent would do that in this day and age.
She didn't think it was a college party because remember the son said it was some school event or something. But even still, you could see he's kind of, I would say she looks sort of borderline autistic maybe. So you're taking your kid out in the middle of the night, your autistic child out in the middle of the night to...
He was unusual looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to sit and say, it did make me realize if I had an ugly child, I don't know if I could love it.
Jesus Christ.
Well, this is, this movie takes place in I'm not sure if it's Park City, but it's outside of Salt Lake City, Utah. She's an artist. They have big art communities there.
Do people buy that shit?
People buy that shit. I work in the art industry. I've been in that area tons of times, and those people they're a different kind of people. They're really hard for me to comprehend. I'm sure really hard for you guys to comprehend as well. They're in a different mindset. They think that they're immortal.
What's it called? Miniature.
Yeah, they're like miniatures or
dioramas. Is it dioramas?
Yeah, something like that. But just a lot of artists, a lot of art collectors, a lot of rich people in that area, and they do. They think it with a completely different mindset than people like you or I. And I guess you could say, why would they do that? Why would they do that? But that's just because they don't see it as a danger. They're living in their own little world. Their untouchable little world covered up by money and big homes and everything else. And I guess she thought it was no big deal. So, but yeah.
Well, I think that you also have to look at the simple fact that this is an Ari Aster film, so everything means everything, even the smallest things mean something.
Yeah.
And because of the dioramas and stuff like this, is basically what that's showing is that everyone here is a puppet.
Right.
And what's happening is and they're giving you clues all the way through. That symbol that's on the mother's thing with that thing is, and then they see the demon god. Basically, it means that 3 people are going to be beheaded.
I've seen some really wacky religions, pagan, weird stuff, but I've never heard of anybody decapitating themselves or whatever so that they can give homage.
Well, a decapitation decapitation for demon gods is actually quite a known thing that used to happen during pre-Hebrew days, during that period, and it's quite the norm actually for those. I mean, of course, Christian pagan ships and stuff like this, as religion got older, of course, they became a bit more humane about what, they went from, killing people, plowing them into the corn to make sure you get, plowing the virgins of the corn and stuff like this, to actually sacrificing animals, to now basically giving up, 10% of your paycheck. So, kind of religion, because religion's pretty much moved on. But the thing is well, I guess what there are is that this family is basically being puppet mastered all the way through.
By the grandmother or by the demon, though? That's where the...
No, by the followers. Everything is predestined for them. The mother, and basically Toni Collette's character tells you basically that Charlie was raised by her grandmother, or Toni Collette's mother,
basically,
who's very strange.
She's like, I gave her to her, and I was like, well, that's interesting.
That's true.
You're a psychotic mother, because your mother, like, you've admit your mother is something mentally is off. But I just gave my daughter her, and I was like, wait, what? Like, why would you give your baby to her? Wait.
But this whole family is predestined, that there's nothing they can do to change this. So as far as like Toni Collette's character, basically, and if you have to remember that symbol that Charlie gets decapitated on, that telephone pole has the symbol on it. And apparently this is the only, it's almost like everything is predestined for this family, that no matter what they can do is predestined.
I didn't really put that together, you just said that.
They're basically on strings, and there's a puppet master like doing everything because this is what's going to happen.
Gotcha.
And simple fact that there's one scene where they come back from the funeral, and if you turn up the volume of your of the film, you can hear the people running around upstairs, hiding.
Oh,
and then of course she finds the triangle on the floor. And simple fact that the mother's body's been taken and was decapitated as well. And then of course, if you look at the people decapitated, the three women are decapitated, which is Charlie, the grandmother after her death, and Toni Collette.
Yeah.
The husband is so incredulous throughout the whole movie.
Oh, yeah.
You think that he would say something weird is going on here,
Well,
but I think he's not really. If you look at it, he's really not in it. He's almost like an observer of what's happening in the background. He's not really right in it with them. Like, I feel like the son is like a witness to it all, as well as a daughter and the mother. He's sort of back here.
Yeah.
He's not.
Well, the family is very segregated. If you ever notice, the family also, it's kind of like today. I guess maybe if we view this film, like, let's say this film came out in the 80s, we might be looking at this as something different. But because it's coming out now, that if you notice that all the families spend time on their own, they don't spend time together. And pretty much what families do today anyway, if everyone, the kids eat in different rooms and everything like this. But in this movie, they all spend time away from each other. It's only when they come together, and then whenever they come together, there's conflict.
Yeah,
right.
It's almost like Gabriel Byrne's character basically is trying to hold this family in conflict together. That's pretty much his role, sort of thing.
They don't seem very cohesive.
I knew what kind of family we were dealing with in the very beginning of the film. I guess when they come home from the funeral and the father insists that everybody takes their shoes off when they come in the door. I can't. Working in the art industry, that's one of the things I can't stand, is just having to take my shoes off and walk around in someone else's house in my socks. But it's just, even in your own home where you're supposed to be comfortable and it's supposed to be loving, just don't mess up the carpet. Don't, just that's the kind of people we were dealing with.
We don't have carpet in my house.
And it couldn't happen to a nicer family as far as I was concerned. So
I was also wondering if so going in line with what you're saying, Keith, with there being the puppets of the entire story, were what she was curating, was that them making her curate the reality that was being created? Because it felt as if every time she made something or was producing something, it was producing the reality of it. So they did a really great job in making everything. There was times I couldn't tell what was real versus the dollhouse, if you will, right? Every time you went into a scene, you're like, are we in one of her curations, or are we in an actual room, right? And they did a couple scenes where, you know, the camera zooms in and it is actual a room. So that he does a really fantastic job being able to kind of mix the reality of like, is this an object or is this reality, you know? And I thought, well, what if she's the one who's actually creating this reality? Like she goes even so far as to make the car with her daughter.
The telephone pole in the head. I thought that, did you think that was insensitive, or do you think she was just losing her
I think it was a coping mechanism for her. So I understand that the husband got mad, but it's like sometimes you write, sometimes you use your art as a way to cope with what has happened.
Yeah.
And it was her way of doing it. Imagine finding your daughter's body in the back of your car. All I could think of was when that happened, I was like, why is he not even going to go tell them? And he goes and lays down. I'm like, and then you hear her going out like, bye, honey, have a great day. And then you hear like, like, I mean, it was like, oh my God. Oh, that's so horrible.
I know, there's nothing worse.
But if you look at her diorama, the thing is, her diorama is of the crime scene where she's not there. It's not the diorama of the garage with finding the body, what she would have witnessed, what she would have seen. Yeah. It was actually of the crime scene.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying, though, reality being created by her, because how would she know all of the
Well, she did it after the fact, though, didn't she, though? That's the thing. She did it. She made it after the fact.
But all of these, but it's interesting because all of the things that she was creating seems like she was almost at an end of creating them. So when did she really start it? So you know what I mean? Even when she's doing the touchings of her daughter and stuff,
because that looks pretty intricate, don't you think?
Yeah, for someone to just go, it's going to take me a half an hour to build this curation of my daughter being like, that's where I wondered a lot of the scenes. When she was creating them, I was like, well, is it her actually manifesting reality, or are they using magic in a way to kind of manifest reality, right? So they're using her as a tool, as a vessel to kind of create this reality.
Exactly.
I read somewhere today or this morning when I was doing some additional research on the film that the director actually based the decapitation scene on an actual scenario that happened to a man in Georgia. He was driving around one of his drunk buddies. Drunk buddy leaned his head out the window and clean off his shoulder.
That's just gotta suck.
Yeah. But he did the same thing because I read that too. It was in Wikipedia where it said 2005. It was in Georgia. I couldn't even. He literally did the same thing. He basically went to sleep and did the same thing that the son did. He got out of the car, went to sleep, and. You know, he just, I guess it's like a coping mechanism where you can't process what just happened.
Yeah, complete shock.
Yeah. But again, it's probably Pyman, the demon that's featured in here. Pyman orchestrating everything to bring him to fruition, to bring him to reality.
Yeah.
And these are things that need to happen for him to bring him to reality. And then basically this family is earmarked from the very beginning. From the very beginning that Toni Collette's character is born, that's when it's earmarked. And the mom's setting everything up for that time period.
Yeah.
Oh, he is an actual spirit. He's in the Lesser Keys of Solomon from Goetia.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard of him.
Yeah. And I mean, that symbol that they use is the actual symbol for him, which is basically Pyman being on a horse, traveling through a desert with carrying three heads.
He's Lucifer's most obedient devotee.
What was interesting too is
good man to have on your side.
Was Toni Collette's character, was her consciousness always trying to stop what was happening? Because, like, for instance, with her waking up and trying to burn and kill both of her kids.
Well, what was the deal with that? They explained sleepwalking, but why? Jesse, did you figure out why she was doing that?
No, I was actually wondering that too, because I don't remember that necessarily being tied in, and I was confused by that because I don't remember them explaining it later on. Because she does get possessed later on, and that's why she decapitates herself and goes after the kid and whatnot. I think, when does she get possessed? Like right after her husband burns alive?
Yes.
Yeah, that's when
she kind of gets temporarily possessed too. Remember when she's doing the seance with them, and then the daughter goes into her. Yeah.
Or what we think is the daughter.
Well, the thing is that basically with her, with the trying to set her children on fire, basically whenever, up until this point, it's like whenever she does do any harm to anyone, she is in a dreamlike state. She did it in her sleep. She's a sleepwalker. We also get this reference back to when she tries to pull the head off of her son in her sleeping state, and she wakes up. It's like, oh, what am I doing? What am I doing? Sort of thing. And then basically with Gabriel Byrne's character burning, basically what we were basically getting is this is the first sacrifice that's been made through her hands, though it's, again, this is, it's through her hand, but it's not through something that she wanted. She was hoping to destroy herself by throwing, because before she threw the book on the fire, and she was herself caught on fire. She thought it was she was going to sacrifice herself.
And she couldn't do it herself.
But she thought it could end everything. But what happens, it went to him, and then of course everything starts escalating because now the first sacrifice is made. And you also have to remember that Charlie was supposed to be the boy. Charlie was supposed to be the one who's going to take everything further. But because she was a girl, she had to be sacrificed. And then Charlie's spirit had to enter what happens at the end.
Oh yeah, that's right.
If you notice, when he does land in the flower, the shadow rises from him and a light enters him, which means his soul is leaving as Charlie's settles in his body. And of course,
and that was
continues the prophecy.
Same light that was in the hallway that he encountered that I think possessed him or was attacking him that caused all those him to slam his face into the desk and stuff. I don't really know why it was attacking him. No, was he being attacked from that lady? Because I think he fell on him and he was outside the school, wasn't he? Or wasn't she outside the school while that stuff was happening?
Well, the interesting thing is it's all done by herbs as well. There's an herb that you have to take for Pyman, and the herb is actually being administered. If you notice, for instance, that the son, let's get the son's name here, Peter. Peter basically is that if you notice, he's smoking drugs with his friend.
Right.
And then what you notice is that friend is actually at the end. He's
one of the members.
So basically, he's smoking the herb. Another thing is Toni Collette's character Annie goes to have tea, and then of course she pulls the herb out of her mouth, wondering what the hell that is.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Okay.
And again, and then of course Charlie has an herb as well, sort of thing. And Charlie is basically, with the cutting the bird's head off is a precursor of what's to come. And if you notice the scissors, then she draws a picture of the bird, which has scissors for the beak, sort of thing. So that kind of gives you a precursor.
Well, and then that light was also with Charlie, though, too. If you remember the scene where she's sitting in the room, she sees that light. So it's not necessarily, when you see it later, it's not her. It's whatever's guiding Charlie to her destiny, I guess, if you will.
Well, another thing, I guess, as far as Peter is concerned, in order for a spirit to enter a body, you got to weaken the constitution of that person's soul. So basically, how you would do that is basically, him slamming his head into the desk is one way of doing it. Having things like what his mom's doing. The whole scene at the dining table where she's accusing him of, basically murdering his sister, sort of thing.
Well, even that break of
reality, ways to deter him down. Yeah.
Even the break of reality when she puts him through the seance. It's as if what she went through, right? When she saw that happen, it was like, this can't be real. And now you have fractured into reality too, as well.
But the funny thing about it, I mean, that again, when she meets the woman at the supermarket, the woman that's Joan, I mean, the thing is, she was there, and when things weren't happening, for instance, like after the death of Charlie, you realize that basically the letters going through, and there's a letter going through about going to a seance on one of the flyers. And of course, Toni Collette's character doesn't do that. So what happens is Joan has to escalate it. But if you notice what's sitting in the back of Joan's car, it's basically a chalkboard. She just bought that chalkboard.
Right.
Yeah.
So this wasn't, we don't even know if Joan has a family. She probably doesn't have a family. But but basically because Toni Collette wasn't taking things fast enough, then the congregation or the segregation were stepping in to, if Payman couldn't maneuver them a certain way, then the congregation would come in and maneuver them a certain way. So they had all these factors. So when you do look at the dioramas and stuff like this is basically, it's like going to a puppet show. And that's what they signify basically in this movie, is that basically when they go into Southern, you're watching a puppet show. And these people are on the strings. So every time something happens or something goes off things, they basically cut to the diorama. And then, of course, then you see the people moving around inside the diorama, which becomes the actual set.
Right.
Yeah. Which, by the way they built a lot of those interior were sets built where they had the walls where they can move them, so that way they can have longer shots. So
yeah.
It makes sense now, because even when I was watching it, I was like, everything had such clean lines and and just even the windows that were above in their bedroom, those round windows, everything looked like a dollhouse. Like, it would just naturally look that way. And I was like, oh, now knowing that they designed it that way, it totally makes sense, because you can't tell the two different worlds, because it feels like it's just one.
Did you guys think it was like a claustrophobic, anxiety-ridden kind of movie? I don't know. It seemed like there was no escape from the darkness. It was just...
Yeah, it was very foreboding, like, the whole time. It was like a roller coaster ride, like, through, like, the darkest, I don't know, carnival.
Depths of your mind. I mean, think about it. A mother, basically sacrificing her daughter's family, and the mother in turn, basically is sacrificing her children. And it's just not in the natural order of things. I always find movies like this disturbing.
Yeah.
Because I'm a mom, I guess.
I find good.
I'd say another interesting thing that you'll find in this movie is that there's very little natural light going on. It's all artificial light that you're seeing as well.
Yeah.
It's all a lighted set. Okay. Everything's a lighted set.
You got that tree house out back, which is a badass tree house, by the way.
Right.
It was until the end. It became like a temple for...
Yeah, I wonder why they chose the tree house.
Yeah, that was interesting. Maybe because she spent all her time there. I mean, maybe it's as simple as that. I don't know.
The little girl did, but...
Yeah. I mean, it was... I also like some of the visual effects that the director did with, like, the flipping of the screen, which we see that in Midsommar as well, and the flip from day to night. Like, that's really cool, how you would have this scene where it pulls back and you see, like, the home, but then it just flips, like, it goes from day to night like that. And I love those scenes. I think that... The claustrophobia, I wasn't feeling more claustrophobic. If anything, I felt like I was seeing too much of the room, and it's almost like, because when you're not tight in on something, your eye like is focusing on the subject, but when it's so wide, you don't know where you should be looking at, so you naturally look at the subject, but then over here something happens, and you're like, trick of mind. Like, I think that's going to be the new sort of newish sort of mechanism for horror, is not jump scares, right? Jump scares was the old method. Now it's look over here, but this is happening here, right? You give so much of a peripheral, or you get the panning effect where the camera pans to the left, pans to the right, pans to the left.
There really wasn't too many jump scares, except maybe when she was.
No, and I'm so happy about that.
Ceiling. When she was stuck on the ceiling.
When she took the piano. When she had the piano.
Well, there's also like the effect of you see the person's horror first before you see the horror, right? So there's a lot of those instances where you see the son's face and his horror, you see the mom's face and her horror, and then you get the opposite view of what are they afraid of. You're seeing that something is obviously visibly shaking them, and then now you see it.
Yeah.
I mean, it does make you think that if you're from a dysfunctional family, at least you're not this dysfunctional.
Yeah.
You're definitely dysfunctional.
I find it interesting, like, because so she didn't go through her mother's belongings, but had she went through her mother's belongings, would she have been like, wait a minute, you know my mom. Who are you trying to act like you don't know? Like, when she finds the pictures of her mother.
Photo album.
Oh, my God, like, I know you,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, at the same time, I thought the photo album was weird, because it's like, why would you make a photo album of those kinds of pictures unless you were trying to leave, like, evidence or something? Because I thought the pictures were very strange, because it would show pictures of her surrounded by, like, her cousin or whatever, and I thought that was kind of weird. Like, who would take pictures of that? It's just weird to me.
Yeah, you know how people have like their, well, not anymore, of course, but when we were younger, they had their photo albums up all on the shelf, and they were labeled, like Christmas 88, Easter 99, Mom's Coven.
Mom's Coven.
Mom's crew.
Mom's Satanic Coven, yeah.
But then again, I have to sit there and say that when it comes to photo albums, they very rarely come off the shelf, though. I mean, the only time ours would come off the shelf if something happened, we were bringing a date home and our mom would want to embarrass us.
Yeah.
But that's the only time you actually would look at them, or Or, but there's very rare that you're trying to put all your pictures in the photo album going, I'll look at these one day. And then they kind of go up onto the shelf like that novel that you're never going to actually read that one day you hope to get to. And it just sits up on the shelf, don't they, photo albums? So it's very rare that you do take them down. I guess after a death, I guess you do take them down and go, oh, they were so lovely. And then you're like, they put it away. And then I guess maybe take it out on the anniversaries of their deaths. But,
or when you have family come, then you pull them out. I still go back to like thinking of, Toni Collette's character, and was she subconsciously, she knew what was happening, because even when she like says to her son, I didn't want you. And then she kind of blurted it out. And then she's like, I was trying to kill you. I was trying to get rid of you. And you're like, oh my God, like what the hell,
But did she say she drank poison because she didn't want him?
She said, I tried everything. I tried everything that they, that would induce my labor. And I was like, geez,
But then again, I guess another thing is if Toni Collette's character, Annie, is brought up by a mother like that, that is your norm. That's your normal.
What, to kill your child?
No, but I'm talking about like like what's going on with her mother and stuff like this. And obviously she wasn't close to her mother, so obviously that she has this odd version of what normal is.
Yeah.
And then she has this family, and she has a son sort of thing. And I guess basically she doesn't really know what normal is. And as you can tell, this is actually infiltrated into the next generation, because she doesn't know how to have a normal family because her children are odd.
Yeah.
She got a despondent son, though, he's not the most popular kid in school.
No.
He's basically probably a C student who's getting stoned all the time because he can't seem to find, he's got a father who seems to be quite stoic. He's got a mother who seems quite distant. He's got a sister that, let's face it, if you got to take her to your student parties, you're not going to win a lot of friends, are you? It's like, bring your sister, you'll have to. Me, I'd be like, I'm not taking her anywhere.
I know.
I got a street cred here, Mom.
Seriously, I used to try to follow my brothers around when I was little, and they tell me to fuck off. It's like brothers do not want to take their little sisters to parties.
I think it was also her way.
And a picture if you look like her and your brothers had to take you along.
I think it was also, by the way, it's her way of saying, like, take her along. It's like her way of kind of like punishing him, because she knows he's going to do something, because he's like, you're not going to drink, right? I said I was going to drink. And then it was like her way of like, oh, yeah, fucker? Well, then now you're not going to have a good time either. Take your sister with you.
That's all right.
I'm going to punish you now. Like,
that's
all
right. He just gets really stoned and her head comes off.
I don't think street cred and Utah are two things that should go in the same sentence anyway. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm surprised they're not Mormon, actually. So.
Yeah, exactly.
But you do have to kind of think of a simple fact that even though they might have this daughter who may be autistic, which, whatever
Possibly.
she is, whatever kind of mental problem that she may have, or whatever. The thing is, though, the father goes, "What are you doing sleeping in the treehouse? It's cold last night." And then the mother can't deal with her either. And it's almost like, and then you have the brother who's probably somewhat normal in this setting. Out of everyone, he's probably the most normal, but that's not saying a lot.
Well, the father doesn't really seem like he wants anything to do with anybody. He's just like off.
Yeah, that's, but it tells a lot when they come in from the funeral. They all go off to their separate rooms.
Right.
Yeah.
They all, that's what they do. And it just seems like, you have this person who's maybe special needs. I don't know. I don't know if we're supposed to judge a book by its cover, but I will, of course, because that's what I am, because I am shallow. but she's got this special needs person, and it's kind of weird that even her parents don't try to understand this person who's different. And she's not in a special school, so obviously she's not that special needs. She's going to the same school as the normal son.
Well, but it's like almost like, the whole, aside from the allergy, so there's that allergy that she clearly, the mother's like nuts, making sure she doesn't have nuts. You don't see that your child's slightly off, because even socially wise, she's off. Like, you know what I mean? She's not, hey, mommy, hey, daddy. Like, it's one thing if you're just quiet. She just, the whole, like that.
Oh, yeah.
That's not there's something else going on there. And maybe it's just, ignoring it, right? Like we know our child is different, so we're just going to ignore it. And we don't want to deal with it type of thing. Or
yeah, but normally you would put them in a special needs school or something.
No, normally correct. But again,
I mean, she's at the funeral, and she has like this nut allergy, and they go to her. Oh, that candy bar doesn't have nuts in it, so obviously she doesn't even know whether or not to eat nuts or not, because it's like. No. Because, I mean, how old is she supposed to be? Like 10, 11?
No, she said she's 12.
13. She's 13.
12 13, yeah.
She's 13, so a 13-year-old should know about I mean, okay, I understand the cake bit of it. Okay, she probably doesn't know.
Didn't know, probably.
Even though that's probably the most duddiest cake that we're ever going to see. I mean, how many nuts would that woman chopping up?
Walnuts all around it, like, seriously? At first, I was like, is she making pop brownies? I'm like, no, she's making a chocolate cake.
Well, that's what I was wondering. Is she, like, pot infused,
But then I
don't know. I mean, what kind of high school party has someone baking a chocolate nut cake? I mean, I don't know. I've never been to one. Let you have the munchies later. But yeah. So, it's a big telling that mom goes, "Oh, that doesn't have chocolate. That doesn't have nuts in it," and the father goes, "That doesn't have nuts in it." And you're kind of like, well, why would a 13-year-old not know not to have a chocolate bar with nuts in it? Do you know what I mean? It's almost like they have to keep reminding her that. And
she's eating the same thing, which, by the way, kudos for her. She's getting a spot in that film because they had it in like 5 scenes where they're eating the same Hershey bars.
Yeah.
I mean, the funny thing about Millie Shapiro is the woman he plays is that the girl who played that, she's actually a Broadway actress. And she doesn't look like that at all. She's a very pretty girl.
No, they really uglied her up quite a bit.
Yes, they did. Because I went and looked for pictures of her. I go, I know this actress cannot be this bad. And she's very attractive. So, yeah, they really messed her up a lot.
And they say, though, like, too, that she was supposed to be the vessel of this being. And basically, when she was born deformed. And so then they had to default to the boy. Yeah. So technically she was supposed to be this deity.
And they needed 3, I guess they needed 3 females to be head anyway. So it actually kind of worked out in the best because then her spirit could pass into Peter's body.
Yeah.
So Peter can be the boy and take
Correct.
over.
Yeah.
But the only way that's going to happen is Peter has to die in order for that to happen. But then they get the 3 beheadings that they needed as well. So.
Well, and his technically was a sacrifice. Like, he jumped out of a window. He sacrificed himself.
Yeah. But I
don't think that boy really had a clue what was going on, to tell you the truth.
To be honest, where's he going to go,
Yeah, I know. It's like, well, do I stay here and wait for something really other horrible to happen to me, or just let myself deal with it?
Well, obviously, there's not many family members, because, I mean, it's also very telling, like, at the funeral, what you do get is basically when Toni Collette's giving her eulogy about her mom, and she's kind of giving a eulogy about a person that she doesn't really know. It's had that kind of feel to it. And she looks out and she goes, it's like, my mom would be really honored that you're here, but even though I don't know who any of you people are. And that means there's not even external family. There's no aunts or uncles or great grandparents.
I'd be curious to go back to see if there was anyone in the funeral that was part of the cult at the end.
There was. And I might have watched this film 5 times in the past year, and every time I watch it, I notice something new. I bridge something new. I could probably go downstairs and watch it again right now and see something I haven't picked up on. So,
and that's what I have to say, which is good about Ari Aster films, is basically you can watch them over and over, and you get more and more every time you say it. And I think that the reason why this film made big box office, but there was a lot of people that weren't happy when they went to see this film. Because it is a film that is, I think if you enjoy films, this film's right up your alley sort of thing, because it's one that you can watch over and over and you get more and more from it.
Right.
But I think that if you're kind of a person that's, I'll say a multiplex cinema person who just sees films on the side sort of thing, I think that basically you would go in expecting one kind of film and you're walking away at the end scratching your head going, what the hell? Which I think what a lot of us did the first time around, but when you do see it on a second and third thing, it's like all the puzzle pieces start clicking through. It's like a Rubik's Cube that starts clicking all together. And after about, as Chad was saying, after the 5th or 10th viewing of it, or sometimes longer, that pretty much that by the time you finish watching it that many times, the whole Rubik's Cube is going to be the perfect Rubik's Cube that's all been solved.
Yeah.
And that's what this movie pretty much is.
I think it's also too because it ends dark, and some people can't deal with that. Some people want a horror movie that has the final girl, or they want something that there's a resolution and they're fine with like there's a resolution, and at the end you realize it's not over yet. They're fine with that. They're not fine with, well, this is just shit. There's no good that came out of this. Like everyone died. Everyone like, well, that's it.
It wasn't spiritually or highly vibrationally uplifting.
You walk out and you're kind of like, well, should we go watch a cartoon or something to make us laugh? Because that was really dark. Like you just kind of like, but my dark.
It does give a nod to some of those classic films where there really isn't a happy ending. Exorcist doesn't have a happy ending. Rosemary's Baby, of course, doesn't have a happy ending, and it does have a nod to those 60s and 70s kind of avant-garde horror films, that kind of like sort of things. But I think most people want their happy ending. They want the Conjuring happy ending where the ghosts go away and the family may live happily ever after. Yeah. Unless the movie makes a lot of money, they might have to go back in peril for a sequel. But at least they get an ending. So.
There's supposed to be another Conjuring, and I was like, can they just stop? Like, please.
I know, really. When you're dead like
they won't. What? You know they're not. If they can bring Emperor Palpatine back to life, they can bring anybody back to life.
It's becoming like Scooby-Doo at this point.
Yeah,
it is.
Exactly.
Seriously. Jinkies.
I just
just as long as they keep lying about that. What's the name of those parapsychiatrists in it?
Oh, Elizabeth Warren and Warren.
The Warrens. As long as they keep like putting up the Warrens like some kind of superhero, I think they can probably keep going.
And what I laugh is this is our most biggest investigated case we've ever had. And the next movie, this is the most biggest. It's like, good God, everyone.
Well, it's just a matter of time before they go back to Amityville. That's coming. Conjuring 6. Back to Amityville.
I forget even what the next one is. When I read about it, I was like, okay, this just seems. It was a prison. So it's basically they go to a prison and there's someone who's going to be put to death, but then they think he's possessed. It's something to do with that. And so I guess it's a case that I don't know what it was. They investigated some case where someone was on death row and they've got
a million cases. I don't know, Chad. You know where I'm going with this. How much the Warrens, man?
Man, the freaking... what's even worse than the Warrens, though? I hate that those films just glorify what they did, and they blow everything out of proportion.
Oh, yeah.
50 years from now, guys, now, none of us might be alive to see it, but our children and our grandchildren
I know
will have to watch films that glorify Zach Bagans.
Oh my God! Don't get me going.
I was literally going that joke.
Oh no! I mean the Warrens. Let's take Annabelle. It's a fucking Raggedy Ann doll. Let's face it.
Yeah.
Beware of them. I really think they should use the Raggedy Ann in the movie. Can you imagine having this Raggedy Ann running to people? Oh no! Where's Andy?
Someone actually, that'd be a good. What's the ones that they do on YouTube? The oh my God, Keith, you commented on it a couple times. The ending, something
dead meat.
Oh, how it should have ended.
Yeah, how it should have ended, but they should do a remake.
Honest Trailers.
Yeah, Honest Trailers. Yeah. They should do a whole remake of the Raggedy Ann. Every time there's a scene with Annabelle, they should do the Raggedy Ann and be like, oh my God.
Yeah. What's that thing with those trailers or something? What do you find of trailers? They're
Honest Trailers.
Honest Trailers.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love them things. Those are so funny.
The new one they did was the one from Netflix, the Tiger. Was it?
The Tiger King. I haven't watched it yet.
I haven't either.
I can't do it. I just can't bring myself.
Actually, I watched it because I was going to college when all that was going on in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I knew that he was gay. I was just hoping that it wasn't like someone I knew, or one of those people that you wake up drunk next to. It's like, but luckily it was nobody, so I was fine.
Apparently Nicolas Cage was supposed to play him in a movie, and I'm like, really? Are they already going there? Jesus.
They need a movie of it. I don't know. They really need to.
They can't come up with their own idea, so they have to just remake everything. And
I know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Sick of it.
Well, that's what's refreshing about. That's what's refreshing about these types of films because it's so different. It's not like anything I've ever seen. Yeah. It's nothing like anything I've ever seen.
Maybe that's why people like horror movies so much because that's like the only, for the most part, it's the only genre that's kind of taking risks. Like with this, is it Studio 24 or 42? I was mixing up.
A24.
A24, yeah. This studio comes up with so many really innovative horror films. I mean, I know Gretel and Hansel wasn't the most innovative because it's based off of something that already is out there, but like Midsommar and then Hereditary. All the movies that I've seen from them are really thought-provoking. They're almost kind of like Twilight Zone episodes in that way because you don't exactly know what you're walking into, and you kind of are thrust into this world like a viewer, just kind of like, okay, this is what their life is like, what's going on, and you kind of learn by watching in a different way than most conventional horror films or any other film where they kind of, in a funny way, kind of explain it to you. But in this, it's very serious and stripped down, especially this studio, like even the soundtracks are stripped down and simple, so you kind of feel like you're in a nightmare, but also in a nightmare set in like the real world, which is kind of nice because it's not over the top like Halloween or, you know, with the soundtrack and all that jazz. It's really stripped down and kind of, I think that's almost what makes it so terrifying, is that it's so simple and it kind of just leaves you on the edge of your seat. There's just something different about this studio's films.
Right.
And what's interesting is, like, when you mentioned a soundtrack, I was going to bring that up too. He did this with the other film as well. It's as if you took like a record player and you put it really slow and just got that. It's not like overly creepy. It's just kind of warped. It's like a warped sensory and warped music in that warped sensuality. I kept thinking, especially with Midsommar, you feel like you're going down the rabbit hole. You feel like you're going into a different place, but you're still in a reality, but it's just a different reality.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're going to do at the moment, we're going to cut to Story Geek one more time because they have a special book that you can buy for 99p, and all proceeds will be going to victims of the COVID-19. So take it away, Story Geek, and make sure you buy your book on Amazon, because if you buy it during the lockdown, it's for 99p. And after the lockdown, it goes up to $19.99. So take it away, Story Geek.
Sorry for the brief interruption, but I wanted to give you a gift. This is Jay Shear, author of the Amazon top-selling time travel novel Timeslingers and co-host of the Story Geeks podcast. We just released the Kindle edition of Death of a Bounty Hunter, our new supernatural steampunk Western novel, and I'd love for you to have it. With so many of us staying at home, we wanted to give you something. So we released the book early and discounted it to just 99 cents. You can learn more at deathofabountyhunter.com, but here's Mockingbird Preacher Witch, a character from the novel, to tell you what it's about.
This isn't a story about the man-ogre with a Gatling gun for an arm, or the Taiwan sorceress covered in tattoos, or even the long-winded banker. And while the speedster idiot and the large, very funny Pinkerton detective lady do play a role, it's not about them either. You might think this tale is about the Sheriff of Jericho, a man who will do just about anything to save a loved one, including work for a secret occultish society. And then there's a woman who bears the brunt of his sins and must defend herself when she's most vulnerable. All those characters appear in the story. I do too. But it's about more than that. The one I was assigned to, the Korean bounty hunter, he's at the dead center of it all. Flint, a bounty hunter who comes face to face with something we all do. Guilt and shame. And the desire to run from them. Not because we're cowards, but because sometimes we just can't stand ourselves. It's a story about that. The Gatling guns, the occult, the paranormal, and even the demon spawn. All those are just along for the ride. Mockingbird Preacher Witch. Like I said, I'm in the story. Just read it.
Mockingbird Preacher Witch is voiced by Anastasia Washington in the full cast audiobook coming out later this summer. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoy this gift from us to you while you stay at home. To get the Kindle edition for just 99 cents, visit deathofabountyhunter.com. That's deathofabountyhunter.com.
Hello, welcome back to Literary License Podcast, and we're now discussing our next film, Midsommar, which is a 2019 folk horror film written and directed by Ari Aster and starring Florence Pugh, Jack Rayner, William Jackson Harper, Willem Blomgren.
I give up on
Yeah, you say that one.
Some of these names.
Laura Torrexia,
A cast of
Archie
1,000.
Mataquiu, and Bill Powter.
The last names you see on a hockey jersey.
It follows a group of friends who travel to Sweden for a festival that occurs once every 90 years, only to find themselves in the clutches of a pagan cult. A co-production between the United States and Sweden, the film was initially pitched to Aster as a straightforward slasher film set against a Swedish cultist. Aster devised a screenplay using elements of the concept but made a deteriorating relationship the central conflict after he experienced a difficult breakup. The film was shot on location in Budapest in the summer and autumn of 2018. Midsommar was theatrically released in the United States on July 3rd, 2019 by A24 and in Sweden, and on July 10th, 2019 by Nordic Films. The film grossed $46 million and received positive reviews after critics, with many praising Aster's direction and Pugh's performance. What we're going to do is cut to the trailer, and we'll be back with our discussion of Midsommar.
I told you that I want to go to that festival in Sweden.
No, you said it would be cool to go.
Yeah, and then I got the opportunity, and I decided to do it.
I don't mind you going. I just wish you would have told me. That's all.
Dude, she needs a therapist. You've been wanting out of this stupid relationship for like a year now.
And don't forget about all of the beautiful Swedish women you'll meet in June.
Okay, guys.
That's not her again. Seriously?
Babe, what's happening? Danny.
I was so very sorry to hear about what happened.
I'm sorry.
I invited Danny to come to Sweden.
You know what she's been going through.
Christian says you've got this special week planned.
It's sort of a crazy festival. Special ceremonies and dressing up.
That sounds fun.
Unbelievable.
Welcome and happy Midsummer. Skål!
What time is it?
9 p.m.
That can't be right. The sky is blue.
This is what 9 p.m. is like here.
How long have you two been together?
Just over 3.5 years.
4 years.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you think?
It's like another world.
Tomorrow's a big day.
Is it scary?
What is it?
It has special properties.
What am I going through?
We just need to acclimate.
I don't want to acclimate. I want to go.
Absolutely not.
What's happening? I don't know why you invited us.
That's why you look so guilty right now, because you know.
We only do this every 90 years. I was most excited for you to come.
Hello, welcome back to Literary License Podcast, and now we're discussing Midsommar, the 2019 film. So, Chad, what are your thoughts of Midsommar?
Love Midsommar, especially we were talking about most recent horror movies and just how just crappy and in your face and CGI monster special effects. I don't do it. I don't like it. I'd say over the past couple of years, I have 4 favorite horror films. Hereditary is one of them. Mandy is another. Color Out of Space is another. And then there's Midsommar, which I don't necessarily think it's a horror film, really. But
yeah,
it's intense. It's kind of not even, I can't even say overly dramatic. It's, I don't know.
It's hard to describe.
It is. You have to watch it. When I first saw it, it's just like, I run in certain circles, pardon the pun, here in the North Dallas area. But I mean, a lot of us went to go see it just because. And I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like it. I mean, I don't know how to describe it, but I mean, the girl in the beginning, I guess it really revolves around her because she's so needy.
Yeah.
Actually, in the beginning, she has a lot of issues, and then talk
She's
about
like the worst girlfriend ever to have. Is like,
she's a horrible girlfriend. I'm sorry, Me Too movement or whatever out there, but this is the worst kind of bitch you want to go out with.
Well, a lot of people compare it to The Wicker Man, and I've never seen The Wicker Man, so I can't do that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's like The Wicker Man, but it's following along. Because let's face it, there's human sacrifice for the the Lord and the Lady kind of shit going on. So,
I think you have two different. I mean, I think he mentions it breaking it up into two separate films in a way, and then if you kind of look at each piece of them, that it's like the first part of it is obviously this relationship that she's someone that is already a bit broken, but then something happens that, I think it was one of the most graphic things to me, that it's, again,
right.
It's less horror in reality because shit like that happens, where her sister kills herself, obviously, and then kills her parents along with her. And
it took a lot of work to do that.
No shit.
I mean, it's also, it's like,
I would like do my room and it's like, okay, I had enough. I can't be bothered doing my parents. It's too much piping.
Well, she wanted to make sure it was done right, so she probably was like, let's take him out. But just like the grieving process is something that we all, I think, have experienced, but then for her, I think she's disabled by it, and I think you try to empathize with her, but then there's a part of you is like, well, I've grieved before, but I have never had to deal with that before. Right? I couldn't imagine what that would feel like.
Well, do you think the boyfriend is staying with her out of like guilt tripping kind of thing? He wants to be free, but yet
I think he actually loves her, but at the same time, I think he is.
I think he's
much. He's just as much as a needy person. Like he's afraid to not.
I think she must have a trick pelvis because I can't see why he would stay with her personally.
No, because
she's cute.
No, but because
she's okay.
But his friend even says that they're not having sex because remember the waitress comes by and
that's right.
She looks and he's like, see, you could be hitting that, and it's like I think he has his own history which we don't know. Like it never is explained.
Yeah, they don't.
And he's always trying to do the right thing. He's in love with her, but he's also in that sort of relationship as well, where he needs her and she needs him. And I think that some people feed off of that, like, you really need me, so I'm going to do it.
But what would he need from her? I don't understand. I mean, if they live together, I can understand if they need to stay together to pay the rent.
They're codependent of each other. That's what I mean.
Well,
basically, you know what I mean? Like for him, what he gets out of it is that she's so broken that she needs him, and that's really fucked up.
Right. I think it was on its way. It was on its way out the door. It was about to end. And then I guess he stayed with her out of guilt after her family died.
Yeah.
And he's getting pretty close to the breaking point. But
I would have dumped her at the funeral.
Those are the kind of friends you don't want to deal with when you're dating somebody. They're like Keith.
I think his one friend didn't get. I think his one friend didn't care, but his friend Dave was the one who was like, or was it Mark? What was his name? Dave? Mark?
I can't remember. You would.
It was.
Is this a passive
Mark was
aggressive?
the one who was like, whatever. It like basically when they're like, oh, do you want to do the drug now? No, I'm not really feeling like it. And he goes, oh, I won't. And then his friend's like, let's go. And he's like, no, I'm not going to do it. And then he gets really quiet. He's just like, and then he goes, unless you don't want to do it either. And then his friend's just like, and just nothing, Then finally she caves in and she's like, fine, let's just do it. Let's do it.
You can honestly say, it's like, I've never had that much fun on mushrooms before, though.
Well, she didn't have any mushrooms. She spent all the time crying all the time, which is pretty much what she did. I mean, she's just so passive aggressive, and this is one of these films that's very indecisive between male and females, and it seems like females walked away from this thinking that she's vindicated at the end. That basically, oh my God.
Well, almost.
And I walked away thinking that she's kind of, to me, I had this friend, and hopefully he's not going to be listening to this, but if he is, oh well. I guess I won't be getting any messages from him in the near future. But he's the kind of person that every time he contacts me, it's just like about this person he's dating. And it goes around and around in a circle. And the person he's dating is a real asshole anyway. He's a dickhead. It's all like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do. And it's just like that all the time. And and it gets to the point where it's like, oh, can I call you? And it's like, and I try to sometimes make up reasons. Sometimes, I got to the point where actually I'm not even lying anymore. I'm playing Kingdom Hearts on Xbox. I can't. I really don't have time to listen to you blubbering to me at the moment. Can you contact me when I have the time for this? And now, he gets a bit upset by that. I don't understand why. But
I think I think people get caught in their codependency. That's what I'm saying. I think if he wanted to step away, he totally could. But I think he actually feels like he needs her to be needy of him.
But she's always the victim. That's what gets me. She's always a victim. I mean, the thing is like, okay, instead of like she gets a phone call from her sister in the beginning, and instead of dealing with that, she comes with, oh, what are you doing with your friends? What my sister? And he's like, well, your sister's always like that. Da, da, da. And so therefore, it's like when tragedy hits, and now she can blame him for it. Where if she just bloody dealt with her own family instead of trying to bring him, because she knew that he was out with his friends. So why is she even calling him?
Right.
Why do people do that? If you're out with your friends and you're having a good time with your friends, and even if you're in a relationship, you should be able to have fun with your friends. You don't need the whining wench at home calling out, what are you doing? It's like, I'm not with my friends. It's like, come on.
Yeah. Well, it is a matriarchal kind of movie because eventually, the goddess does get them all in the end. They are sacrificed one way or another, and she comes out on top.
What do you think the movie about? Like, is it like a metaphor for the relationship, or is their relationship a metaphor for whatever the story is trying to convey? Like, it's so dreamlike. Like, you just feel like you're in this crazy ass dream, like something that you would have a dream about while you're sick or something. It's like a dream that you have while you have a fever. But like, it feels like it's a metaphor for something. But what is it? Like, what is the story actually about? Because it's so...
Don't drink menstrual blood because they're going to cut you into a burn you.
That's what's interesting about this studio is that I feel like they don't shy away from like the weird, creepy, gross things like pubic hairs and like putting that in this. But in like other horror movies, they have to make it extra gory, like make it about, like people's internal organs and zombies eating that, and they'll show you that. But when it comes to this stuff, like menstrual blood and like pubic hairs of a woman, like they don't shy away from weird stuff like that most other films probably would.
Yeah.
So it definitely sticks out.
I think it's interesting because what I got out of the film was them, that there's a sort of a nod to, imagine you go to a land where you don't know what their rituals are, right? And you come there and you think it's this wondrous land, and you, in some way it's like an escapism. So each one of them are going there for a version of escapism. I think even she went along because she couldn't escape her own reality, because her reality at home was not being able to sleep, going into a room and crying every single minute. So maybe she thought going on the script would help her.
Yeah, I thought she went because they would have no phone reception. She couldn't call him every 5 minutes going, what are you doing? What are you doing?
She was really needy.
I feel like she was...
Are you thinking of me?
I think, she was needy, but there was also like something to say about grief and not being able to fully process it. And I think even like going later in the film when she is crying and she's wailing and they're all wailing with her, I thought that was very interesting because it was like, you all are feeling what I'm feeling. And it's like, but going back to like, again, imagine walking into a society that you know nothing about in their rituals, and you're like, wow, this is amazing. And then part of their ritual is
jump off a cliff.
Oh, we're going to have two of our oldest people fly off of a cliff, and, and they're like, what the fuck is happening? And then you realize, like the woman saying, like they chose that was their path, right? And I looked at it and I was like, I guess I would have just wanted heads up to know that's happening, because I probably don't want to see someone come plummeting to the death. But I get
Not to mention it's illegal.
I mean, no, but I'm just saying.
Well, not necessarily. Suicide's not illegal.
Suicide's not illegal.
Well, if you're
if you're laying there,
if you know they're going to jump, and they do this when they're 72, isn't it? When they're 72 years old or something like that.
Yeah, 72.
Yeah.
You know, and so when you turn 72 and you know people are gonna, you know, jump the cliff, I mean, you know, that's technically kind of illegal. I would have noticed. Don't you think you guys would have noticed there's something a little bit off about this place? I wouldn't have stayed there the first day. I would have.
Oh, they were trying to leave after that.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah,
but you know something though.
Excuses like, oh well, you can't. Or the guy left without you, and we only have room for 2 people in the truck. And she's like, what? You know, like, why would he leave without me? Yeah.
But I also kind of wonder, though, if they were accepting of other people's culture. And the thing is, you get this with tourists all the time. It doesn't matter if you're English, American, or whatever you are. And they go to a foreign country. And most of the times they'll bitch about how it's not like the country that they left.
Yeah.
And I kind of wondering, if rewatching this film, this is like the 3rd time I've seen this film. And I always watch the director's cut because I quite like the director's cut. Because it gives you a little bit more nuances that are going on.
Yeah.
And I was kind of wondering, would these people that they brought there, would they been designed to die if they just accepted everything and weren't so critical all the time? Let's sit there and say, like, that couple fall off. And for me, if I was there, I'd be like, okay, they died. If they're 72, that's their choice. It's not what, you know, if I personally, it's like, fine. It's like, at least, you know, I won't, you know, they won't be going to a care home or whatever. This is what they believe in. So I would probably support that myself. I'd be like, fine.
Yeah.
And it's like, and if they gave me food, I would try it. I might not like it, but I would try it. But I wouldn't be like, and I found that the outsiders, all they did was criticize everything. And even the guy who's writing a thesis on it was doing nothing than being very critical. And, you know, Will Poulter's character, I mean, he does piss on the family tree, literally. I know. Sort of thing, and then he's like, "Oh, I didn't know," but it's not like he was sorry. It's like, and it's almost like it's almost like I'm gonna go, and they knew that they're gonna go see this, you know, this ritual or this Midsommar. I mean, of course, they didn't know exactly what kind of ritual, but they know that they're going to a foreign land that's going to be practicing things differently, and none of them were accepting of that as well, which is kind of interesting. That sometimes I wonder, did they design themselves to die for the simple fact that they're kind of assholes about everything? Yeah. You know, all they did was criticize.
I thought there were like certain archetypes that they were deliberately trying to create for each of these characters, because you have the lovers, right? The couple that are there. Then you have the guy who if you noticed at the end, he has a gesture hat because he was trying to always be funny and quippy and rude, right? And then, you know, you have the guy who is actually named Christian, I thought was very interesting, because were they trying to sacrifice Christianity at the end of that? Like it was like a very interesting, weird paradigm with like that. But I just thought about that in a weird way. Like if you look at tarot cards, I was looking at some of the characters are like, you know, characters in the tarot card deck.
I kind of like the maypole dancing competition.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of cool. You know, for those of us
that was interesting.
skipping around maypoles in the past. So
I saw where this was originally meant. It was pitched and originally meant to be a slasher film, and Ari Aster really didn't have much interest in it. But then he went through a severe breakup and wrote this and pitched it back, and they ran with it. I wonder what the slasher version of this would have been like.
I can't imagine it being a slasher.
Probably like Hostel.
Or Deadly Blessing with Sharon Stone. Where they get caught. They caught in that Amish community.
Because I think it's like it actually, the way it ends, aside from her weird goofish grin, it kind of is like, you know, some of them, you know, they just fell into this, like Keith was saying, like about where if they came into this community and they came in and you were welcomed in, did you become a member of that community and now you're a part of that process? Or were you immediately like sacrificed? You're sacrificed. You know, you just served a purpose. Thanks. You know,
I don't know about y'all, but that guy in the bear suit, that gave me severe anxiety. I don't know why when that particular scene happened.
I also wanted to say the sap that they give the 2 guys, which apparently didn't work on one of them. Why couldn't they have given them to the older people who are going to jump off the cliff and just like toss them off, right? Like here, we're maybe
they did because, but they had that drink though, didn't they? So
That's
maybe
true.
they did.
They did.
Yeah,
because you know they did that little thing where they, you know, howl and sing to each other, and then they drink that drink. So there could have been something to drink, and then they come. But then again, it's an honor for them, and that's an honor. You're going back, if you look at, Native American cultures or a lot of older cultures and stuff like this, I mean, basically, it's an honor to give yourself back to the soil. It's an honor to put yourself back because you're making a life back, your children and their children's children, and you're giving back to what life's giving you. And life's the cycle. That's what their whole belief system is, a cycle. I mean, we don't necessarily have them praying to a demon god or anything like this.
Yeah. If anything, it's like they're trying to actually get rid of the evil. Like that's what they're doing, is trying to send it back. So it's not like they're welcoming.
But they're so covert. I mean, if you're trying to leave, they're not going to let them leave. You're not getting out of there alive one way or another. And
well, the thing is, though, the first time I kind of looked at that, I kind of saw it that way. Looking at it this way around, I thought to myself, they're going to leave, and what they're going to do is just criticize their whole lives and change their whole life cycle, what it is. So they need to protect themselves. And I don't think that they're killing them because, I think they're killing them because they need to preserve their society. They need
their way of life and not let them out.
That's the simple fact that basically that these people are evil. It's kind of like you kind of have to do this because if you don't do this,
well, they're going to publish 2 anthropology papers on these people, so it's going to get out what they're doing.
Well, it's also how they keep their village alive is they have to bring people into it to kind of procreate. So kind of like what they do with the girl, Masha, whatever her name is. Like there's also a part of it. Like I think the guy. Well, I forget what his name is. He saw something in her that he was like, she can be a member of our community. Like I think it's also that it's like they're all
Well, she's an orphan as well. You have to remember, she doesn't have any family. She doesn't have any connection because their only connection with the boyfriend. She doesn't have any friends.
Right.
Yeah.
Though she does have someone that she is speaking to about her boyfriend and the relationship breaking up. Because remember, she's talking to her friends because I think he's going to leave me. Is that her sister that she's speaking to, or is she speaking to a friend?
No, she's speaking to her friend because at that point she's worried about her sister, and she calls him first, and then he's like, you know how she is, you know how your sister is, and she's like, yeah, you're right. She hangs up, and then she calls her friend, and she's like, he doesn't get it. He doesn't understand what it's like, Then she calls her friend.
But then 7 months pass, and then they go off to Sweden, where she kind of emotionally blackmails him to go along with them.
Yeah.
But the thing is but then again, I mean, if she's like this for 7 months, chances are she probably lost that friend in the beginning anyway. She's like, oh my God, it's bloody.
Well, there's really
again.
nobody that's going to be looking. Nobody's going to miss her, basically, and that's why she'll fit in very well.
Yeah.
Either that, or
honest,
the friend. Either that or the friend she was speaking to secretly was the Pele guy, because you always got that one friend that comes out of nowhere and comforts your woman without you.
Well, I mean, another thing is that she's the perfect candidate to stay behind because at the end of the day, what's the one thing that she's missing that she doesn't have at the beginning? It's family.
Yeah.
She gets her family at the end, and she has acceptance, and she has a family that's understanding of her. And I guess if you look at her family dynamics, I imagine that she's growing up with a bipolar sister who always seems to be having the world centered around her.
Right.
And I imagine that basically you're like the person, I guess it's like being a royal. If you're like William, the whole world's centered around you. But if you're Harry, it's like you're off to the side because you're never going to be king. Yeah. And I guess if you have a bipolar sister, I mean, everything revolves around that child's sickness. And so if you're a sibling that's not part of that, then you're kind of left to the side to kind of fend for yourself.
Yeah. And the sister
here, she found a family but here she found a family that's basically going to support her and be there for her and knows her pain and, and so on and so forth. And then she's going to be part of a bigger picture that she's not even a lonely clog in her own life. She's just a clog, a cog. That's all she is. Where here, she's going to be a cog in a larger machine.
Well, she got a little status and a little attention there too, where she had not really. She was kind of no one really paid attention to her.
Yeah.
She wasn't really the star or Miss Popularity. She was that needy little girl that people kind of poo-pooed, and here she is, the May Queen. I guess that's bad.
Well, another interesting thing that you'll find that Ari Aster did with the film, which is quite interesting, is that with Florence Pugh's costumes or clothing, if you notice that all the way through, her clothings are always hanging off her. They're always baggy.
Yeah.
But the only time they fit her is when she wears the cultist garment. And as soon as she puts that on, it's the only time that she has anything that fits her properly. So it's almost like, hand in glove sort of thing. And another thing that you also notice in the film as well, which I kind of noticed watching it a couple days ago, is that when you see all the cultists at the beginning, they're all in white. But as the people start disappearing, more color appears in their clothing.
Oh, interesting.
I didn't notice that either.
I didn't notice that. No,
I noticed the sigils. Like, I noticed she had a sigil on her, which I was curious. It was like a rune. And like each of them, when they were doing the dance, they had the runes on their chests. So I was wondering what that was. I mean, part of what I love about this film too is there's so much detail. I can't even imagine what it was to create the sets, like the barn where they all slept in, or that room.
Yep.
Oh my God, the room that the guy went into where he met with the woman to talk about her daughter or whatever. That room had so many just things in it, and I was like, how much time did that take to kind of create something like that? Like, so that's, I thought was like, wow, it's brilliant.
Did you notice that room that you're talking about? That was it Christian, when he's sitting in there and he's sitting in the chair and he's staring right ahead? What he's staring at?
No,
a burning bear. Within the wallpaper.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
And they do like a close up of it, and then they pull back, and he's just sitting there just staring at it. So there's a lot of little flourishes that are in here. Well, I mean, we were discussing before we started recording that the very first mural that you see that they show at the beginning of the film is actually the whole movie sprayed out for you. Yeah. It's the death of her parents, them going to Sweden. It has all their little characters there, and then what's going to happen to each of them until the very end. And if you freeze that picture, you'll see the whole movie in front of you right there.
Oh, wow.
It's kind of brilliant when you think about it. I thought it was beautifully filmed, though. Didn't you think? I mean, I thought it was just really. I thought it was the scenery was gorgeous, and
Well, the next time you watch it, what you want to look at is things in the background, because you will see the main character, or Florence Pugh's character. I can never remember what name they've given her in this show. I just know her as Florence Pugh.
Danny.
But
Danny.
Yeah. Well, you'll see her. You'll see her family. Her family appear in the clouds, and they perform it. They'll appear in the trees behind her as she's slowly accumulating. And what they'll do, you'll see them stronger, and all of a sudden they start fading away as she becomes more indoctrinated into the cult.
Oh wow! I didn't know that.
So you will see them, and there are times that you'll see them in the crowd scene, and they're very plain to see.
Yeah.
And then what happens is then you start seeing them fade as she becomes more part of them. And I guess her crossover, even though she's the one that kind of pegs everything what is actually going to happen after the old couple plunged to the death sort of thing. But then of course. But then she's the only one who doesn't look away either, which is quite interesting to have a character who you would think after the death of her parents and seeing the death of experiencing that with the death of her whole family, that she would be the first one to turn away, but she doesn't. She watches it from the beginning right to the end and doesn't squirm, doesn't squint, doesn't get sick.
Yeah, she's even upset when they go bash the old guy's head in because he didn't die right away, if you recall, and they had to go, kick his head in.
We used to do that with the farm animals back home. That's just normal.
And you knew that was not going to end well. Like, she did a full-on body slam, like a belly flop. He was going straight down. I was like, it's not going to be good.
Legs. Oh, damn. I was like, oh man, that had to hurt. It's not enough drugs or mushrooms in the world for that one. Say, hell no.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of felt sorry for the guy, though, when he was supposed to be the procreator. They get him all stoned and stuff, and there he is in the middle of this mating ritual.
Yeah.
It's like
it's just creepy as all hell.
I mean, can you imagine having sex with someone and all of a sudden the mom comes and starts singing to you while she's holding you?
Meanwhile,
grandma's like back there like, hey.
Yeah, push harder, dear.
And look, he still was able to perform better than
I know.
Well, like
pressure,
all of
no pressure.
the in there all of the women in the room were making moaning sex sounds for them, and it was just so awkward. It was the weirdest thing ever.
The word for it.
Did any of you get to see? Did any of you see this in a theater? Or Vicky, you said you saw it in a theater.
I see.
Okay,
about 2 years.
You saw. I saw it. I saw it in the theater. I saw it at Alamo Drafthouse, and
I was sinking in my seat right about that. I'm so glad I didn't bring my kids with me.
that moment.
God, I could not watch that with Tyler in the room. I couldn't do it. It would have killed me.
What were you saying, Chad?
just the reaction. That's what I didn't get when I saw Hereditary. I didn't get to experience the audience reaction because I saw it at a screening and it was just me and my son. When I saw Midsommar, it was in a packed house on opening night and in an Alamo Draft House. Action the ritual, the mating ritual, was probably the best one of all because you could just feel the tension in the room. You saw a lot of women with their mouth wide open, and you saw a lot of guys doing like Vicky said that were just kind of sinking in their seat. And just when the movie.
Didn't one of the mothers grab and push his ass down?
Yeah, she comes around and she's like,
get in
there. As if she just tossed a bowl of spaghetti down. It's like, oh, dig in.
Yeah. Oh.
I'm just like, as a mother, me and my daughter probably would have laughed about it, but if my son Tyler was there, I would have just fucking died. I would have probably got
It's bonding.
It takes a lot to make me do something like that.
I'm actually proud that they do that because again, it's a different type of uncomfortable, right? It's like like you're used to the uncomfortable of what Jess was saying about the first movie about the uncomfortability of seeing the head and seeing the daughter's head. In this, it was the same way. Like when the guy goes down and he's laying there mangled, you're just like, this is horrible. And then they come over at the mallet and you're like, oh no, this is going to be much worse. And instead of taking a far shot, they get right up close, right? They get right up in there and you see that melon burst and then you see the next person do it again. And you're just like, it's so uncomfortable right now, and it's just a different type of uncomfortable, like sitting there watching that happen. And then you think it's done. Nope. Still going. Got to take a break. Come back. Here we go again.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely a different movie though. But
imagine filming it.
Yeah, I would love to see the outtakes.
Which, by the way, he's the only one that would. So that actor, it's like, hey, by the way, we have some of these other actors that are going to be naked. They're going to be behind you, but you're going to be doing a sex scene. Like what? Like what? Why do I have to do this? These other people don't have to do this.
They're going to be spanking your ass.
We got some extras coming in for the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about the immaturity level come out in one.
Another thing though, I have to say that everything. Once they get there, everything's so brightly lit as well.
It is.
Yeah.
It's very rare that you see a film like that that's so brightly lit as well. Which, there's not a lot you can hide behind.
No.
With this story.
It reminds me of like an adult Teletubbies or like the Wizard of Oz when Dorothy opens the door and just enters this crazy, colorful, weird psychedelic world.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess it's kind of like Oz, isn't it? Sort of thing with its own set of rules and its own set of characters.
Right.
Except the Munchkins are an evil cult in colorful clothes.
I don't think they were evil. I think that that was just their rituals. I think if you go anywhere there where they have rituals and you either respect those rituals or you're kind of like, again, like they weren't praying. They weren't praying to something evil. They were trying to get rid of evil. So they had rituals that they had to do every 90 years to kind of be like, we got to appease our gods and we're going to send back the evil. And this is, and send it out. And we're going to say, this is what's going to get rid of it.
Well, this is all that mother goddess fertility right stuff. That's
it's
people thousands of years ago. You find bog people, they're, ritually strangled and whatnot to appease the gods. This is not new stuff for people.
Well, it'd be the same people that were praying to Stonehenge, isn't it? Same kind of
basically.
The druids. That's pretty much it. It's all druid or runes that they're going through, and it's all very close to nature. Greta Thunberg would be very proud of these people.
She would be. Yeah.
She's like, why is that arm or why is that foot in the crop? That's not healthy for that crop growth.
Nope.
But the thing is, I guess, you do, religion does require sacrifice. Every religion, doesn't matter if you're Christian or anything, there's always a sacrifice that has to be made, that you have to give something up.
Yeah. One form or another.
Yeah, so you're always giving something up.
This movie kind of reminded me of the movie Apostle as well, where I don't know if you've seen that one.
Yeah.
It's kind of a similar concept in a way, very vaguely, but with the whole gods and religion kind of concept. Because I think that in that movie it was a version of some kind of I think it was some kind of a fertility goddess or something. I don't know what kind of a goddess she was. Different take on goddess completely, because she's this elderly, weird woman that feasted on the blood of all of those people down there. But this was a little less bloody, aside from the menstrual blood and the heads being, hammered to death. But this was different.
I mean, I guess if you look at this in real terms of like some of the weirder religious sects, I mean, it's a lot more. It seems to be they want their children to be educated, so they're not like the Amish, where basically they only educate you till you're 13 years old. Then what they do is when you're 15, they throw you out in the world with no skills, so that way that by the end of the year you either you prostitute or work as a farmhand, basically trying to make ends meet, and then by the end of that year you come crawling back to them because. Basically, this is the only sanctuary that you're going to get, because no one basically is either that or, I guess, become a crack whore or whatever is going to happen to you. That's what happens to the Amish religion. Or if you even look at some of the other religions, I mean, they kind of like, when you get entwined to some of these religions, it's hard to break away. Yeah. But this religion, I have to sit there and say that they do send their children out to be educated. They're not keeping them stupid. They're going out to colleges and stuff like this, and they come back, and then they're
coming back as lawyers and whatnot. That they're smart about doing what they're doing because they know they're going to need that intelligence and possibly lawyers. I mean, I did notice that. Because
and so there's almost the people that are there in this religion. It's not like they're trapping them because they know that no one's ever going to come into this religion. They know that the people will come back because they actually feel secure within their belief and that they will come back. So
I would have left. I would have left just because of the 72-year-old stuff. I was just like, no.
I don't know. I feel like
I'll probably be fine up until I was like 70, and then I go, I'm leaving now.
Yeah, I would be like one of those people like, my ritual's coming up tomorrow, and then be like, wait, where did he go? And put a note. Already jumped off. Yeah, gone.
But you wake up one day and you're 72. You're gonna have to jump off a cliff. It's like Logan's Run,
But they treat them like they're kings and queens because I'm assuming they live in that. They live in that hut that they bury. Basically, they live there. It's like you're sequestered from everyone else. You get to live your life, and have the last years of your life separate. Because remember, they kind of explain, everyone is here at this age. This is the next phase. It's like. Here's the spring, here's the summer, here's the fall, here's the winter, and then the guy was like, "What do you do afterwards? Kill whoever's after 72?" And he's kind of like, I think that's a progression.
But if you think about it, it's kind of humane, though, because if you look at some people after they hit 72, it's a downhill, and it's not pretty for a lot of people. I mean, I know that if you say that people are, but I'm saying that. But I'm not saying that. But if you look at like most people, there are always exceptions to the rules. Okay, people are living longer. But the thing is, people are living longer, but it's quantity of life. It's not necessarily the quality of life.
Yeah.
For our older listeners out there that think that Keith does not think you have value after you're 72 plus, here's the email.
That's not what I'm saying.
No, he's saying you get to make your choice. Like it's kind of amazing to make your choice.
And if you think of 72, if this is a long-standing, they do this every 90 years.
Right.
And so basically, then the one before that was 180 years, 90 years, then 180 years, 360 years, so on and so forth. 72 would have been a very long age, and 72 today.
So the festival was every 90 years. Is the geriatric sacrifice kind of thing? Is that something that they do every year, or is it on the 90-year thing?
I imagine that every year they must do that.
Because I was going to say, that wouldn't be so bad.
There must be like some kind of yearly ritual where a 72-year-old do a swan dive.
I was curious about that as well when I was reading about it, because I from what I can, it says it happens this particular festival happens every 90 years. But there is obviously some sort of festival they have annually, because Pele shows Danny pictures of previous May Queens. So,
right.
Yeah, and so they must have other. I mean, there must be like a year where you basically, the 72-year-olds jump off to sit there and get back to the earth, and I imagine they probably have some kind of winter, festival. I mean, like we do, like our Christmas and their Easter. Our Easter basically is a Druid holiday that we adopted, and the Christians used to adopt into Easter.
Yeah, because they must have like a fall. Reborn. Which would be interesting if they ever did a sequel, how you would follow that up with like a different season, like a fall or a winter, like how that would be. Because it takes place in the winter, right? So it is a seasonal thing. So you get the
summer when this festival.
No, but when it starts, because it starts in winter, the movie starts in winter because her parents get killed, and then it goes 7 months later, and then it goes from that to summer. So it'd be interesting. You solve winter and summer. Would you see spring and fall? Would be interesting to see like a second film, and then have the fall be what are the rituals? You
never know.
Yeah.
Well, and then of course, the girl who's I'm having sex with, Christian, she'll get pregnant, and of course she will give birth in the spring, which is her birth.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Well, it's all cyclical. The Celtic calendar, all of that. It's all based on agriculture for the most part.
Yeah, so I guess, I'll be sending Vicky to Sweden soon.
Piss off. You'd have
to be careful, because you'll be 70 this year, won't you, Vicky?
I'll bring the mallet just in case. So
I'm not jumping by myself, I can tell you that. That's going with me.
Well, I'm going to drink some menstrual blood and get some old woman to help me push while I'm giving that girl pregnant. That's what I'm going to do.
Yes, yeah. That was so uncomfortable. That really was, especially with young men in the audience. It's like, seriously.
Right?
And nothing bothers me, but that was uncomfortable, I will have to say. Usually I'm just like,
you do kind of... Yeah, I have to say I found that quite complicated. And I remember the first time I seen it going, what the hell? and then when I think it's that and sewing him into the bear, I was like, but then I thought, God, he's kind of cute actually. That little
I know.
He was little Teddy Ruxpin. Oh,
he looked cute. I was waiting for like someone to come save him with his friend.
I know. You knew there was no out. You knew that this was final.
I think that's one of the biggest shocking things is that she chose him. She could have chose someone she didn't even know who was willing, right? He was like, yeah, okay, I'll die. Like, is it me or is it the guy that, you just saw,
Well, they were constantly eating magic mushrooms throughout the course of the movie,
Well, she was vindictive anyway. It's just like...
Very.
She was very vindictive. I mean, to be honest, there are a lot of symbolisms. Like when he gives her the cake and he can't basically get it up when he's trying to light the candle, basically as a form of not being able to get it up or keep the romance alight, I guess.
Or when she says, basically they're sitting there and she goes, yeah, I can picture you doing that too. And he's like, what? She's like,
well, he kept making goo-goo eyes at the other girls anyway, so he got what he deserved. The way I
but he wasn't. It was his friend. It was his friends more.
Think about it. You got this girlfriend who's like, Miss Sour Pants, all sitting there like this with a face of death on
Sour Pants.
How is that again?
And then you get like these nubile virgins dancing around, they're all happy and smiley. It's like I would have danced with the virgins. I'd be like, I'm sorry, babe, but this is over. To be honest, his problem basically is that he should just dumped her at the very beginning.
Well, no, his problem though, like his friend said, his smart friend said, "Here, see, you're doing it." He's like, "What? I wanted to do this. You knew I've been working on this thesis, and now you're trying to take my." So that's his problem is his problem, meaning he's right. He doesn't know what he wants, so he clings to the things that he thinks he wants, right?
Well, then he stole the guy's thesis,
and then
basically.
and then he basically was like, you know what? I'm going to write this. And that immediately I was like, what an asshole. Like, I was like, why? Yeah. Why would you do that when you knew your friend was coming here for that reason?
Right.
Yeah, this entire film is gaslighting 101.
Yeah.
Her boyfriend her boyfriend's like the exact definition of kind of like a beta male. He's very passive aggressive. He's not dominant. He's very he kind of just floats with the tide. Like there's nothing about him that is take charge, and he doesn't like make his own decisions. He just kind of does what he thinks he should do. But even that is kind of just like meh. He doesn't make decisions. And I think that ultimately because he's that way, I think that in a way kind of leads to his death, because I feel like if he did have some kind of a strong will, that maybe he could have fought off like what happened to him. And I feel like what happened to him being put under that spell is kind of like a metaphor for his passive aggressive kind of personality, his very beta kind of persona that he has, because he's incapable.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah.
And I also it kind of led him to make. No,
I was gonna say the founder, when he comes back, the friend comes back, and the founder goes, "Wow, you're friends. You really picked good people." I think he deliberately picked people that he knew would be good sacrificial lambs. Like, oh, this guy's a douche. Like he doesn't clearly know what he wants. She's very manipulative. I mean, she's very codependent. So she would be a perfect mate. Like he kind of went around and was like, why don't you all come? You're an asshole. You know, you think you know it all, right? Like, I'm taking all of you with me because you're going to give me four off of my list right there.
I mean, to me, it's an allegory that, you know, if you find yourself in a relationship that's not working, it's just best to
just get out.
Yeah.
Just get out.
But it's easier said than done, especially if you're codependent. And I think that's what was going on. It's not she could have been as whiny as she wanted to be, but there was something that he was thriving on that. He liked that she wanted that much attention from him. And so that's why I think
it might have gave him a feeling of exaltation, or I'm important.
I guess a hero complex, yeah.
Yeah.
Some guys have a hero complex.
I almost wonder if this is kind of a journey for her character, just because it ends with her being the May Queen. I feel like it's supposed to be some kind of a kind of traumatic growing up story for her, learning to kind of grow up because of the traumas that she endured, like with her sister being killed and her parents being killed. And I'm assuming because she must have had some kind of a bad relationship with both her parents and her sister too, because I think it left her in this kind of childlike mindset, which is why she was codependent, because she didn't have healthy relationships. Right. And I think this movie kind of symbolizes this kind of journey that she needed to go on to kind of, in a way, grow up or something. I mean, maybe that's what it is. I don't know, but I feel like it's supposed to be.
Yeah, it makes sense.
For her.
And by the way, she has to ultimately be the one to make the decision, right? So at the end, to put that on someone's shoulders and be like, and there's power in that. So for her, you know, she probably sat there because there was that indecision when the building's burning. But then once she sees it burning down, she's like, I did this. And she's like, you know,
it's like she was relieved once he was gone. Like she was upset because she thought that it's almost like she thought she was supposed to be upset, but then there was like a sense of almost, I felt like maybe relief, or like, because she seemed happy for once, as if letting go of that codependent nature that maybe she had, or, you know, was used to. Like when she let go, she realized she could be happy, even though it was a very twisted moment.
Yeah.
But there was a sense of relief.
Well, she goes through the 7 stages, doesn't she, of grief, didn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anger, denial, sadness, you know, happiness is her last.
And at the end is acceptance, isn't it? So.
Can you imagine these two trying to figure out where they want to eat?
Oh my God. Do you want pizza? I don't know. What do you want? Well, I don't know. What do you want?
Like once she got past the grief, she'd be the one with the, you know, to wear the pants in that relationship, because that guy doesn't have, he doesn't have a backbone to make decisions. That's what bugs me about him.
Yeah.
Even when the scene when he comes to tell his friends that she's coming, he's like, so.
Yeah. He didn't want to make them upset, but at the same time,
coming, and they're like, "What? Well, I invited her, but she's not going to come. Like, she says she's going to come, but she's not going to come." And you're like, "Dude, grow a fucking pair. Like, you don't want her to go, then tell her not to go, right?" And his friends are just looking at him like, and then his friend Mark is like, "Can I talk to you for a minute? Can I show you this paragraph?" He's probably like, "You mother." Like,
yeah.
But at the same time, though, it's like she must know that his friends don't like her. You know, the thing is, if you go out with someone,
you can kind of tell,
and you go to their friends,
and she did.
Well, she knew Mark didn't like her because even that comment when they're going to take their drugs, she's like, you know what? No, it's going to be a bigger thing if I don't do it. So let's just like she knew this fucker is going to say something if I don't do this. So let's just do it, right? Like whatever. So if you think about it, she's the one who is making a lot of the decisions in the film. Every time, should we do this? Well, no, it's fine. Do what you want to do. And he'd be like, no, I'll wait for you. But no, you could do whatever you want. No, I'll wait for you. And it's like, okay. And so it was.
Forget, what were they eating at these meals?
Well,
it was little cakes or tarts, right?
And Swedish food's not the most wonderful.
I've never
food
been
in
to
the
Sweden,
world.
so I'm just wondering.
Can we talk about the herring moment for a second?
Herring.
Can we talk about the herring in the room? When they're like, here, eat it. You have to eat the whole thing. You have to swallow it. And she's like,
oh, yeah.
Oh. I mean, Swedish food is kind of like, it's a lot of protein and fat.
Right.
Sort of thing. I mean, you have to remember that there's not I mean, as far as traditional Swedish food is concerned, that it's a lot of protein because they have a very short summer cycle.
Right.
So there's not a lot of vegetables that they actually grow. So up in where they are, if they are using traditional food, it would be a lot of fatty foods, a lot of meat. Like I guess if you're going to compare it, I guess it would be like Polish food.
Well, I was just trying to as far as presentation, I was just like, what is that shit? I mean, it just.
I imagine they probably would eat the hooves and the eyes and the cow brains and everything that went along with it. Though, to be honest, I mean, it is very odd that you don't see any livestock around them, which is kind of weird.
I thought that too. Because when I saw the trailer, I thought that they were eating people. They insinuated it was going to be a lot more violent than it was. So you kind of just pictured all of this stuff.
Massacre,
but very little happened the whole time, and it only happened really at the very end, and then you kind of got hints. You didn't actually see them kill the friends. You just saw their bodies as scarecrows, essentially. What else did you see aside from the smashing of the old people's heads and
I guess the bear intestines coming out, I guess is probably the most gory it really was.
Oh yeah.
It was just a film for the whole family. A little bit of everything.
So that brings us to our final thoughts. So, Vicky, what are your final thoughts of Midsommar and Hereditary?
Family fun films. No, I actually like this director. I've not really seen too much by them before, and I didn't realize until getting into this that it was the same director for Hereditary. I thought that they're kind of intense. I wouldn't say they're really, well, maybe Hereditary is a lot more grosser than Midsommar, but I like how the director plays off of all the characters together, and it does eventually kind of come around at the end. They're not very scary, but I found that they gave me anxiety attacks, both films, because you knew it wasn't going to end well, and it was I wouldn't say, well, Hereditary was family, going down this dark path of insanity. And in Midsommar, you had a bunch of friends that got together, and it was, not going to work out well for everybody involved either. I mean, I would definitely suggest him to everybody. I'm probably going to watch him again because Chad brought up several points about Hereditary, as did Keith. I probably missed a lot when I was watching it initially the first time. In Midsommar, like I said, when I was watching that, I was kind of sinking in my seat because of the couple of the young men in the audience. I didn't really, just that one scene, you guys know it takes a lot to unnerve me. But I thought they were excellent. I really look forward to more coming from this director. I think he's, I just liked how he handled his films. I liked the visuals that came with it, except for maybe the mating ritual. But other than that, it's a big thumbs up.
To me, that was just a normal Saturday night. And what about you, Chad? What are your final thoughts of these two films?
Well, I have a tendency to really dig horror that is more character-driven than in your face, like a lot of jump scares and blood and gore and slash. And both of these films are very character-driven. They get you invested in these characters very early on.
They do.
And then they just basically smash these people right in front of your face. You get
literally.
deterioration. You get to watch the downward spiral. It's very, very enjoyable, very good storytelling. I'm really disappointed, though. I was looking up Ari Aster at what his next film is, and they have nothing listed.
Nothing.
So,
Well, it doesn't mean they don't have stuff in the works. You just never know.
Well, he's either taking a break or he seems like he's one of those directors that really picks and chooses what he wants to do. If you think back to early M. Night Shyamalan,
They're kind of comparable, don't you think?
Yeah, I really enjoyed M. Night Shyamalan in the very beginning of his career, and just after the success of The Sixth Sense, he just started. I'm trying to think what the big commercial success that he had.
Sixth Sense.
Yeah, Sixth Sense, Signs, Unbreakable.
I love Signs.
Those three.
And then came Village.
Yeah.
And then he came Mark Wahlberg talking to houseplants. And
that's
right.
After he showed Hollywood he could do it, Hollywood just started throwing money at him, and he was popping out film after film after film. You saw almost one a year, and they gradually get worse. And I would prefer that this director don't do that. I would prefer that he would be choosy.
Yeah.
And give us these little masterpieces once every 4 or 5 years rather than a half-assed attempt maybe every 8 or 9 months.
Well, that's what makes up most of the horror that we see, or movies just in general in Hollywood right now, is just a bunch of, it's all about making money, and
reboots.
That's why you don't get movies with quality.
No more reboots.
What about you, Sam? What are your final thoughts?
Did you say me? Because it cut off a little bit. Sorry.
Yes, you.
So, John, what is your final
all I heard is, what about you? That's all I heard. I have to say, I agree with Chad I'm more drawn to horror from a story-driven, character-based perspective. And I love that this director has this ability to charge his film with these characters and these stories that are unique and different, and it's not like anything I've ever seen. I hope he continues to do that. I hope he continues to pull in the folklore of things, because I love the folklore, and it doesn't have to be so filled with mysticism. It could be rooted in this folklore, and he does a great job at not overly supernaturally infusing his films, that there's a nice balance with that and then the reality that you're in. And it's more about how your brain as a human being process that reality. And I really love that he does that. And I hope he continues to do that. Some of the best things about these films is the way it's just shot and the way it's visually shot and the different techniques he is doing. I'm sure come in off of an M. Night Shyamalan, it comes in off of a Kubrick, it comes in off of like other directors, but he takes the best of those and he kind of fuses them together. And I am excited for whenever he does do something, but I agree with Chad in that it doesn't need to be rushed. It needs to be within his own time. He seems to be patient with the details, and I appreciate that. So can't wait to see what he produces.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, good points, John.
And what about yourself, Jesse? What's your final thoughts?
Well, I always say less is more, and I feel like with these films, that rings true for sure. It's almost like if you were to just read like a really simple child's book with like really simple characters, very simple illustrations, and because it's so simple, you get to go in depth with the few characters and the few plot devices that they introduce. And I do also like any film, whether it's horror or whatever genre, I do like things that are character driven and relationship driven, because that's really what drives the story. Right. And these films are very, it's more based on the human experience through like a sensory kind of experience in a way. Like it involves all of your emotions and kind of relies on it's like you're dropped down in the world and you're just kind of going about this experience with the characters in the film, which I kind of like. And I like the simplicity of it because you do kind of go on the same journey with these people. And I think it's fun because maybe fun's not the right word, but it's different from other horror films because there's so much going on, and they're trying to prove a point with all of these different monsters and these stupid teenage characters that make stupid decisions that no one would make in real life. And that's the difference, is that you're taking like real life people, but then you're adding subtle mysticism. Like it's very subtle, and it's still magical. And I think it feels more magical because it's subtle. Like if magic were to exist in our world, that's probably how it would be. It'd be very subtle. And I think that subtlety is what makes us feel that anticipation, the anxiety, and the fear the most, because it's not like, you know, electricity shooting out of people's fingertips or, you know, anything like that. And that's what I like about these films the most, is that it gets your brain thinking as if you're in a nightmare or a dreamscape. And I think that the way that they film it too kind of makes you feel like you are in a nightmare. Like when you're sick, like I said earlier, that's always how I feel when I watch these films. Those are my final thoughts.
My final thoughts basically has to do with the simple fact that I quite like a director who is very meticulous in their filmmaking qualities, and we're able to actually throw in a bunch of stuff that when you watch the film, every single time you have a different experience. And I think that Ari Aster is very, very good with that. I also like the way that he delicately handles really difficult situations and topics and actually throws them in and gives you food for thought at the end of each film. Unfortunately, Ari Aster was actually going to be in with our conversation for this, but he has sent an email saying that he will be with us next year because we're going to cover his 2 short films, and he'll let us know what he's going to be working on next at that time. So he'll be back for season 4, but we watch the space sort of thing. But I have to sit there and say that what I do, you know, also like the simple fact that he does get out really good performances, and he does enter you into a world that most directors can't do. And I like for the simple fact that he expects his audience to be intelligent. And I quite like that. He's not dummy. He doesn't dummy anything down for us. He expects us to be intelligent. Exactly. He expects us to watch it, and we may not like it, or we may love it, but we'll walk away thinking something. Yeah. And I also like the simple fact that long after the final reel, you know, the final credits go up, you do walk away from his films, and even his short films you'll notice as well. And Ketzel's on YouTube, and we'll put the links for those films on Vimeo and YouTube on our show notes here. That you'll find that you walk away and they haunt you for days on end afterwards. Okay. And I say that's the result of a great film.
Yes.
Yeah. Lingers.
I agree. It does stay with you. Midsommar stays with you.
Yeah. And I learned some really valuable lessons. Never there's no way you can love an ugly child, and if the relationship's over, end it.
Especially when they're cutting, you know, the heads off of birds and crap. I mean, if they're ugly and doing that, there's something up. Something's up.
Yeah. I mean, as a side note before we get to the end of it, my goddaughter Hasla, she takes a lot after me, and one time I was taking her to nursery school, and so I go there, and she goes, "Keith, you have to meet my friend Stella." I said, "Fine, I'll meet your friend Stella." And she goes to me, and she introduced me to Stella. She goes, "Hello, this is my friend Stella. She's not very pretty, but she has a lovely personality."
Yep, she takes after you, all right.
She's 4 years old.
Jeez.
Her mom's going, "You need to stop spending time with her."
Does she happen to have Asperger's? I mean, she just couldn't control that to come out.
I treat you well. Treat your children well.
As seasons are changing, so are we. Even in our current state, nature is blooming, and with it, life is finding a way. So as we sit in our tiny little houses, watching, listening, waiting to rejoin the world, why not pass the time by heading on over to our website at llpodcast.com to check out all of our social and podcast platforms, listen to all of our past episodes, become a patron, and sign up for our monthly newsletter to read our reviews of books to screens and everything in between. And while you're there, you can check out what is coming for our next episode, where we will be continuing the theme of our month, Death is the End, with 1960 film Les Yeux Sans, a.k.a. Eyes Without a Face. We at the Literary License Podcast would like to thank you for downloading, liking, and sharing the Literary License Podcast. Until next time, folks, stay healthy and safe. See you later. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.